that did boggle my mind as well when everyone was watching Contagion, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, okay, I know how we beat this. We put who was it?
Is it Matt?
It was Matt Damon, but he was just a dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There, what was it? Uh, was it?
What?
Uh, uh, I can't. It's either. I can't think of the main actor who's involved in the uh, getting people the vaccine.
Let me see.
I'm
Uh,
losing it.
is it uh um Lawrence Fishburne?
Lawrence Fishburne, that's who it is. Lawrence,
Yeah.
we need to put him in charge. He is the new Fauci. Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast, as always, hosted by me, yours truly, Chris. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 417. I am currently tired right now. I don't know why I'm sharing that information with you, but for some reason I'm mustering up the energy that is needed for this intro, and I know why. Because I have a phenomenal guest today. This is one of the episodes I've been really looking forward to posting for a while now, and I'm happy the time has finally come. But of course, the message of the podcast: if you're going out into the world, wear a mask, be kind and courteous to others, which is the second message of the podcast. It's a big blue world that we all share, and we all have to be respectful to one another, and wear a mask. That's the easiest thing you can do. And you know what? If you don't feel comfortable wearing a mask, then stay home. Okay? That's all I have to say. If you don't want to wear a mask, stay home. Cleaning. Get some cleaning and vacuuming. There's so many things to do around whatever place you happen to occupy, whether it be a home, an apartment. Well, it's all home, but whatever. Get your cleaning done, all right? But my guest today is a phenomenal person. So much fun chatting with him, and just a phenomenal guy. And if I'm getting married, he's my best man, and I'm calling it right now. Joshua Dela Cruz is on the podcast, and if he looks familiar, it's because he is the new host on Blues Clues and You, and it's just had a blast chatting with him. Josh, come back anytime. But I'm done talking because I want people to actually listen to this conversation that we had. So everybody sit back, relax, and Josh, take it away. Hi, Josh. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. Just, it's so refreshing that nothing is going on in the world, and been able to just relax and zone out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Did you have a hopefully relaxing a little bit holiday season this year?
I did. The nice thing about it is just that I took off the whole month of December kind of off. I didn't do any interviewing or anything like that. So it was just a nice chunk of like, I'm going to chill and hang out. And then, of course, the holidays came, and yeah, it was actually very nice, and everything was small and quiet because, of the world. And but how about yourself?
Yeah, we were able to just kind of enjoy each other. My wife and I, because of our work, we very rarely ever get to just stay put for the holidays. So we're always traveling to one family or another. And so it was nice to, we had our Zoom and FaceTime holidays as well. But it was nice to just kind of sit together
Hmm.
and stay put.
Hmm. Have with the stay at home and all that going on for we're approaching the year. Have you found that your creativity has gone up as far as like you've noticed an uptick, or has it been more of a let me just chill?
It's a mix of both. I would say it's definitely a mix of both with everything going on. I'll go through periods of intense creativity and productivity, and then I'll sink into just chilling out for a little bit. And what I have found is that this year has, because of everything going on and everything that has been going on, just in like my regular day-to-day life, it has it had been years since I'd been to see a therapist. And so
Mm.
with everything happening in the world, it really kind of pushed me to go back into therapy, just to go to the mental gym, um, and take care of my mental health, which has been really, really helpful to just kind of get different perspective and to take care of the mind, while we're trying to take care of our bodies amidst the stress eating that's happening.
Right. Right. Yes. Oh, guilty of that. But I think that is, and I've talked about this with other individuals, but I think that's the best thing to happen to certain people being in this situation is just kind of taking time to do a self reflection and be like, boy, I need this or I need that.
Yeah.
And like this was the year that, or last year was the year that I always said I wanted to try therapy and I didn't know how to get into it or anything like that. And I was just like, you know what, it's got to happen. I'm tired of feeling the way that I feel, and it was an amazing experience. And yeah, and it just made the everything a little bit clearer for me, which is
Yeah.
always nice. So
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. That it's strange that it's known that you have to go to the gym, right? Or
yeah,
you have to exercise rather. You don't have to go to the gym, but like physical exercise, even, and that's something that we found too, where because we were at home and we didn't have like a treadmill or a bike inside the house or anything like that, we never realized how much walking we just do in the day,
mm,
uh, at work doing errands and things like that. And that's when we realized, oh man, no, like I have to move around.
yeah.
Uh, and so that's when, the home working out started. But uh, even in 2021 now, I hope that people are going to continue on this path of realizing that they also need to take care of their mental health as well.
Mm.
And I think because of quarantine and you have no choice but to stay at home or to limit your outside activity, there is that relief that there's no FOMO because you're not missing out on anything.
Right, right.
So you can just do what you need to do.
Right. It's and I don't want to, get anybody mad here, but uh, I've never had that FOMO, that fear of missing out. It's just like they want to do whatever they want. That's fine. Leave me out of it. But
Yeah.
being able, I just wonder what it's like for people like that who are just at home. I do feel bad because well, they need it. Maybe they're social people. They got to get out there. They got to have fun. Or they're like, yeah, nothing's going on. Let me focus on myself. I just wonder what that mentality is for somebody.
Yeah, it's so interesting because none of us have ever encountered anything like this. especially all together. Maybe here and there in spots, or if you're traveling and there's some sort of like flu going on and you're stuck in your hotel room. But outside of that, this is such a strange time that I never thought that we'd ever have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. You're right. I mean, I don't think anybody. Well, maybe some. I don't. It's so funny just looking back at a lot of the like the fun media and cartoons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you see like Futurama predicted something like this happening, and it's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah. Yeah.
huh, interesting, or what the Simpsons
Oh,
predicted.
yeah.
Their predictions are pretty not spot on, but they're pretty good, and it's just funny how nobody expected this, but it's just, well, we're here, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have to deal with it. The writers of Contagion, I remember, because at the beginning of the pandemic, for some reason everybody wanted to watch Contagion.
Yes,
And it
yes.
was like one of the most hot on Netflix. And we read an article interviewing the writers. It's like, how did you think this up? Everything that's happening in your movie is happening now. And
Right.
they're like, this information exists. And these processes exist. And so we just literally looked at all the information and what would the pillars be? What would the dominoes be in order for everything to fall? And it's really, really interesting. I have a friend that is a conservationist, and just talking about the frequency of if we don't change our relationship, the relationship that we have to animals, the frequency of viruses like this are inevitable.
Mm.
Are going to continue, and whether that be by like the animals that we eat or the animals that we come in contact with, it's really, really interesting. And like many people have been thinking about it, but just not like the mainstream public, just because
Yeah.
that's our area of expertise. But it is so interesting. Simpsons, I don't understand how they're how they did and are doing what they're doing, especially that they're still on the air. Like that is the greatest. It has to be the greatest show in the history of television because it's almost as old as television.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. That did boggle my mind as well when everyone was watching Contagion, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, okay, I know how we beat this. We put who was it?
Is it Matt?
It was Matt Damon, but he was just a dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There, what was it? Was it?
What?
I can't. It's either. I can't think of the main actor who's involved in the getting people the vaccine.
Let me see.
I'm
Uh,
losing it.
is it Lawrence Fishburne?
Lawrence Fishburne, that's who it
Oh,
is. Lawrence,
God.
we need to put him in charge. He is the new Fauci. Right.
Take the red pill or the blue pill.
Exactly. Well, no, we'll see what happens. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's 50-50. That's all right. But so this is a loose show, as you can see. But I am very interested in chatting with people all over the entertainment industry and, kind of finding out when they got bit by the bug. So in your case, when did you get that? When did that bug bite you?
Oh man. I would say that the bug bit me when I was a kid. Ever since I was a kid, but not in the way that it usually does. It's usually, at least how they depict it in movies and in TV. It's like they see that one show and then they know that that's what they want to do for the rest of their life. I went to school with kids who were like that, but that was not me. When I was younger, I just used to watch a lot of TV, and most of my early television watching was was free television. So it was the main network channels, WB when it was before it was CW,
Right.
Fox 5, ABC, and then as far as children's television, it was really Mr. Rogers for me. Mr. Rogers and Barney, but Mr. Rogers, undeniably, there's a connection there where you felt connected to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved TV. And I remember coming home from church and like rushing home to go watch the free movie at the 3 p.m. movie on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of terrible action movies, which became like, a part of my life in so many great ways. And that, like a lot of my sense of humor comes from a lot of those old movies that people usually are like, oh, you're too young to know what this is. But I was like, no, those are my Sunday afternoon cartoons. Was Total Recall. I mean, so and I grew up in such an amazing time where, Steven Spielberg was producing cartoons.
Yes, yes.
Full orchestrations. When I was at Aladdin, our percussionist was the percussionist for the Animaniacs and for Freakazoid. And it's incredible, just like talking to him and looking at the score, because he was so good at his job. The writers of the music would start throwing him curveballs, like, all right, we'll try this one out, try this one out, try this one out. And so they just got increasingly more complicated. But as a kid, watching and hearing that, like, that becomes a part of your identity. So I used to watch a lot of TV, and my mom used to joke around, you should just be an actor. And I never thought I would ever be an actor, even up until high school. I didn't even know that I was going to be an actor then. I used to joke with her. Well, I didn't know I was joking. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer, Mom. Don't worry. Because that's the only other cool or like really reputable job that I knew, because I saw it on TV.
Right.
And, my mom is a nurse and my dad is a dialysis tech. So we immigrated to the States when I was 2. My older sister was 4. So we came from like working class families.
Yeah.
The arts were never really a profession. My parents knew that it was a profession, but they never thought in a million years that their kids would ever aspire to do that.
Right.
So it wasn't until high school year, it was my junior year of high school, I did a show that I was the lead in the spring musical, and because I was the lead and I guess did well enough, I was nominated for like best actor in a leading role for Paper Mill Playhouse, their Rising Star Awards. So Paper Mill Playhouse is a regional theater in New Jersey. They're an amazing, amazing place. They make, like Broadway shows are way too expensive, and we can get into a whole conversation about that and its inaccessibility. But they make theater accessible, and every summer, every spring, they have an award show for the high school musicals in all of New Jersey. And if you get nominated for leading actor or supporting actor, you automatically get a scholarship for their summer musical theater conservatory, which is like a month, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day for a whole month, taking acting, singing, dance classes. You would be going to rehearsals, which would culminate to a big show at the end of the conservatory on the main stage at Paper Mill Playhouse. And that was the first time I'd ever come into contact with kids who knew that's what they wanted to do with the rest of their lives. And the thing that really struck me was how at home I felt being around them. And, and so after that summer, and it was the best I'd ever felt. And I was like, I was going to senior year. Usually people know what they want to do. I thought I was going to be a music teacher.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to be an actor. And I was really scared. And so were my parents. But,
Yeah.
they were super supportive, which is so weird. Um, 'cause- which is so weird because you would think that, or I would think that, my parents come from the Philippines, which is largely a third world country, especially when they were growing up,
Hmm.
uh, and working really hard and then immigrating to the United States and then sending their kids to college. Like acting isn't the safe thing to do.
Right, right.
But they talked to my teachers who were instrumental in soothing them. Like, he's a smart kid, and if there's any time to do it, it's now when he's young. Um, and with their support, I was able to go to Montclair State, which is another state school, which is a state school in New Jersey, which is another huge part because I went to a state school, because I got some scholarship money. um, I left. I was so fortunate to
Hmm.
leave without a penny of college debt.
Mm.
Which, as an actor, I have friends who are like Broadway show after Broadway show after Broadway show veterans and are just finishing uh, their college tuition payments,
Ooh, oofa.
and which is like which is so difficult for me to grasp that
Yeah.
any education um, costs as much as it does, but especially as an actor, where it's not like you get one high-paying job and you're set for the rest of your life.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I think that set me up for the rest of my life. But long story short, I didn't know that I was going to be an actor until uh, essentially my senior year of high school, because I just didn't even know. I couldn't put words to feelings.
Yeah.
How at home I felt on stage, and how at home I felt learning and rehearsing and like working hard and challenging myself. I didn't know that is what I loved to do and what I needed to do until I met those kids and I met those teachers and I had that opportunity.
Mhm. I mean, I think that's perfectly normal not to know what you're going to do, even when you're in college.
Oh yeah.
Since I was in third grade, my whole plan was I want to be a teacher because I had a really crappy teacher, and I was just, you know what, I want to be the better version of you, and I told her to her face. No, I didn't. But and then when it was time to get into high school, or sorry, to college, I just, I wanted to be a history teacher because I like history. And, there's never any history going on at present moment. So I was like, you know what, why not? Um, and,
Yeah.
and so I took a history class and I was just like, this is not what I want to do. And I would go to the cafeteria and I would sit there, watch movies and try to write screenplays.
Mm.
Um, and then it just kind of, I remember, my grades were horrible. My parents found out and they said, "Why don't you want to do this?" And I was like, "Cause I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want
Yeah.
any of this." And then that's when I said, I want to be, I want to be in film. I want to work behind in film, and eventually podcasts. And they said, "What's that?" You'll find out later. Don't worry. Um, but yeah, and I I'm glad certain individuals are driven to do what they want to do at a young age. But also it scares me because I'm like, I hope you stick with it, or hopefully life doesn't get in the way and diverges you to a
Yeah.
different path. And even if it does, go with it.
Yeah. It's really what I know now, and that I hope kids that are younger learn, and that are starting to like quote unquote have to figure out what they want to go to
Right.
college or what they want to do for the rest of their lives, that it's not necessarily for the rest of your life. I mean, probably one of the best things that you can do, that I tell a lot of actors, is that like it just take some sort of like personal finance class, or learn about how to do your taxes or what you need.
Right.
Like, you know, it's a shame that, and it's really incredible that schools don't prepare graduates for the financial life, the financial responsibility that they're ultimately going to have to take, and to make it accessible. But you know, it's amazing because your life could change in so many different ways. As you know, if as long as you are, you know, working really hard and are kind to people, there is, and stay smart and stay informed. There's no reason that you couldn't hop from one career to another. I've met so many producers and directors and just people in the industry that didn't go to film school, which is really inspiring. Just because you know, if you love something, you're going to work really, really hard to figure out how you can do that. And then if another passion comes up, and you're going to work really, really hard to figure out and do that. So, you know, thankfully, I grew up in a situation that allowed me to have the flexibility to make mistakes. A lot of people don't have that in their reality, where it's like, no, you don't have any room for error. For one reason or another, which, you know, is so crazy to think about, and I'm definitely thankful for the way that the cards were dealt.
Yeah. And you know, and you mentioned it earlier, you know, your parents, you know, and I don't want to stereotype or be generalistic, but you know, from what I've seen, you know, and my dad is from Mexico, and when he came over, and he's been nothing but supportive.
Yeah.
And you know, from a lot of the media I've seen, like whether it's The Big Sick or what's the I can't think of the Bruce Springsteen movie. I forgot what it was called.
Oh yeah, Blinded by the Light.
Blinded by the Light. You know, you have these immigrant parents who they just want their kids to settle in and, you know, have a good job, not necessarily, you know, chase your dream, but like follow the path, stay on the path, you know. And but it's always nice, you know, when a parent is just like, look, we worked here for you, and if this is what you got to do, we support it.
Yeah. So. It's definitely really, really blessed. I remember when I went into, I decided that I wanted to move to the city. And one of the best things that ever happened for me as a young actor moving to New York City was that we lived in Jersey, so it really wasn't that far of a drive or a commute. I mean, the commute was terrible. You know, as an aspiring actor, the commute is terrible because you have to work a restaurant job, which is terrible for commuting from Jersey.
Right.
It's terrible when you live in a city, and going to auditions and all these things. And so I wanted to move into the city, and you know, and I wanted to move in with my girlfriend, who is my now wife. And none of this would have ever happened if I didn't move into the city. A, B, I were with Amanda, who's now my wife, or C, my parents supported me, but they said, we cannot financially support you.
Right.
It was one of the best things to ever happen, because I had to hustle, because I had to work really hard, and I never felt any sort of resentment toward my family. Like, yeah, the city is expensive. And this is what I want. So if it's what I want, I need to go out and get it. And so it was, you know, I'm glad that I did it. I remember feeling really stressed out about it, but, you know, they were able to support me in I think, you know, many more ways, because they weren't paying for my rent or giving me allowance or anything like that. And if that's your situation, fierce. I'm grateful that that's how it worked out for myself.
Nice. And then you talked about Broadway and doing plays and stuff like that. As far as the acting goes,
Yeah.
is there one form you prefer over the other, whether it's set work or you know I don't want to say crowd work, but in front of a crowd on the stage?
They're two different. For me, I love them both equally. They're
Mm-hmm.
such strange forms because they're essentially the same thing, but what gives them life are kind of like they're two separate lives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I miss both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would love to go back to Broadway if I'm given the opportunity. I would love to do a play on Broadway. I did plays in college and I absolutely adored them. Um, and now working in on television, I am fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by everything about it: the production, the props, the costumes, the lighting, the photography, the direction, the teamwork. They're all multimedia forms of art, and I'm really I really hope. I'm working hard to one day be able to be on the other side of the camera or the other
Mm-hmm.
side of the table. But as far as Broadway, I would love to go back to Broadway. And yeah, it's like picking between your kids,
Yeah.
and are twins.
Nice, nice. As far as working on television and working on, I grew up. I wasn't a kid with Blue's Clues per se,
Yeah.
but it was on, and I would watch it. Um, what was the feeling of getting that show because obviously you're a different type of host and a very much welcome, needed type of host. But what was the feeling of when you first got it?
It was disbelief and shock. I think
Yeah.
shock was more like I didn't quite understand what was happening. I knew that I was happy, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel really anything. So I have to kind of like go back. So I went to my final screen test, and then I think I want to say it was like a Thursday or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left for vacation. I was in Aladdin at the time on Saturday
Mm.
to go to Seattle to catch the boat, to catch the ship that my wife was working on. She was doing Jersey Boys on Norwegian, and she was doing the
Oh.
Alaskan circuit. So I did my audition, let's say Thursday. I was on a plane on Saturday. I was in Seattle on Sunday and boarded.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking like, oh man, I really want this job. And I told Amanda, I was like, I don't want to say it out loud, but I really, really want this job.
Yeah.
And if I had only been on a cruise one other time, and I really wasn't waiting for a phone call, so I could care less whether I had cell service or not. But um, I started to become really cognizant of how little cell service I had on the ship, and
Right.
because it's the 2010s, I just brought my phone with me when I got coffee early in the morning to go read my book on the deck. My wife had a show the night before, so she was sleeping in, and I got my coffee. I sat down, and all of a sudden my phone started ringing, and I didn't quite understand. I was like, oh, I have service. It's a New York number. Oh, it's probably, telling me whether I got it or not. So then I picked it up. I don't know who I was talking to. They said that they were trying to catch me because they knew that I was on a ship and that I got the job. And I remember just being beside myself, like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then I called my wife. no, I texted my wife because on the ship's Wi-Fi, the text went through, and then I had I think I had an hour and a half of service to call my family and my agents, um, and it wasn't until after that I was like, "Oh man, you got the job." And it gets better and better every single day. I love what I do. I love the people that I'm working with. Um, and the show that we're working on, every season gets better and better,
Mhm.
and as far as pushing what we're able to do, um, and I'm still in disbelief, less
Mhm.
shocked. But yeah, I think, if I'm being honest, I remember being in shock and not really feeling anything, kind of being next to my body, experiencing everything, not quite, like above myself,
Yeah.
looking, but it just so surprised and like not sure what is up.
Well, and it is definitely like a full circle moment, watching um, Mr. Rogers, and
Oh,
he's one of the people who, like, through and through, was just a phenomenal person, phenomenal guy, um, a huge advocate towards so many causes, and then now you're one of his kids who was inspired, and now you get to inspire a whole another type of generation. So it's a nice loop that will keep on going.
I I'm just so lucky. I didn't really watch any cable TV
Hmm.
until later in my life. My aunt had it, and so whenever we would sleep over her house, that's when we would watch cable TV. And I remember that being a huge influence on my life.
Hmm.
But again, like public television and network television, that was the bigger influence on my life because it was so accessible.
Yeah.
um, Theater is so inaccessible that it's only a huge part of a very small majority's lives.
Hmm.
Uh, but Nickelodeon and cable today, because there's so many outlets and because there's so many ways to view the show,
Right.
it has now kind of crossed over into that public television world where it has become accessible. And the more accessible something is, the more change, as far as media goes, the more change there is going to be. And I'm just so happy that our show in 2020 and 2021 and beyond is just working to be more and more accessible,
Mm.
for everyone, as far as representation, as far as um, how to view the show, or how to help kids. I mean, like the show originally aired in 96, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And it was groundbreaking because everything that they did was based on childhood developmental research.
Hmm.
And, shows come back uh, for nostalgia, for nostalgic reasons, and have a really good following. But our show came back because there have been almost 20 plus years of new research that needed to be put into action. And so it's incredible that we benefit from the nostalgia factor,
Hmm.
but we're benefiting the audience because there's new information that we're sharing, and that to help their kids.
Hmm.
And it's a dream.
Yeah. And it's nice because obviously as the years go by, the research gets better and better and
Yeah.
more thorough. So you can adapt to and because again, growing up, it was just like, oh, you have dyslexia. Well, you go to the special classes. You don't get to be with other people. And versus now, it's like, yeah, we got stuff we can help you with, or ADHD. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we can help you. Yeah, it's all, yeah, and it's just nice
Yeah.
that that's a thing.
Yeah. I,
So,
I, I I had the biggest problem reading out loud in school.
mm,
I I couldn't speak clearly. I got very hot. I remember, I was very uncomfortable. I couldn't speak the sentence clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what theater did for me. And the theater taught me that I need to take apart the information. I need to like know what's doing, why things are happening. I need to know everything there is to know about it, and then I can digest it and process it.
Mm-hmm.
But theater taught me how to learn, and now because there's so much research out there of from our show and from books and from different sources of different magazines and books and different media of how to help kids. It's such an inspiring time because I hope that we can progress and come back as a country to focusing on education and educating our future, because they're the ones that are going to be running it. And you know, they I believe the children are, you got to teach them well.
Yes, yeah. We're already the past. It's the children's
That's right.
turn.
Yeah, it's not our, it's theirs.
um, well, if there's one thing on the podcast I love, it's a good horror slash fail story. And
Oh,
as an actor, going to auditions, do you have an audition fail story?
oh my gosh. Audition fail story. I have two big performance fail stories.
Oh, okay, that works.
Every audition is going to be a failure in some way.
Hmm.
Even if you nail it, you probably won't get it, and
Right.
that will be an audition failure. So the one is less is I was laughing about it earlier this week. I took over for Aladdin for 3 months, and so I invited all these casting directors to shows. I
Mm.
was feeling good, and I showed up to the theater completely healthy. I sang the first song, and I was like, "Ooh!" It was like "Proud of You, Boy." I sang that song. I was like, "Ooh, so, she's a little tight today. I don't know what's going on, but not sick, nothing."
Yeah.
And then the second song, the group song, I started to lose my voice.
Oh.
And then by the first duet that Jasmine and I sing, I lost my voice, and it got worse and worse and worse as the show went on. So much
Mm.
so that it was kind of like a frog, not an exaggeration, a frog screaming to be heard.
Mm.
Uh, and of course, casting directors who are there for all the big auditions are sitting in the first freaking row. Uh,
Yep.
watching me just completely humiliate myself. And I remember going to the ENT, and they're like, "Yeah, you're healthy. It just looks like it's inflamed."
Mm.
I don't know what happened. But the other audition story, performance story, was I was on for Aladdin, and there's a part in the show where Aladdin and his friends are trying to get the people to dance along so that they can get money
Mm.
to buy food or whatever. And so my buddies, they go up, they do their dance move. They're like, and the Babcock or the Omar. And I'm like, the Aladdin trumps you both. And so I do this move that ends with me jumping in the air and landing on one foot.
Mm.
Now, in the show, I had these big parachute pants,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
my foot, when I land, gets stuck in my parachute pants.
Mm.
So I fall backwards, and I'm like, oh, no worries. It's cool. I'll just roll out of it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how little space I had behind
Oh
me,
no.
and I roll back and knock over my castmate, Brian, and then also knock over a drum. So there's a loud clunk clunk, and then a castmate fall to the floor. And mind you, it's completely silent. And the way that the scene is built, everyone's supposed to be watching me at that moment on stage. And I just feel my cast just like their jaws drop, look down, and then I was like, "Oh, that was the worst." And then my buddy had the next line in, and he was barely keeping it together. And all I just saw were just on stage, my cast, their shoulders just going up and down because they were trying not to laugh. But that was probably both the worst and the best memory I have at Aladdin on stage, just because, the magic of theater is that you're lucky enough to do it 8 times a week, and it's never going to be perfect 8 times a week.
Did you gain an appreciation towards MC Hammer in the 90s with the parachute pants?
Oh my goodness, yes. First of all, the dance moves with or without the parachute pants, and then with the parachute pants, I want to see the B takes. I want to see all the takes that were broken, because I have a lot of respect for MC Hammer, but I don't know if anybody could get away with not tripping on themselves.
he perfect. That's why his legs were so spread out apart. That's why he did the crab walk a little bit. Yeah, see, you know what? MC knew what he was doing.
Yeah, that's right. You truly can't touch
this. But for the people at home who would like to keep up with you, follow you, keep up to date with you online, where can they do that?
Yeah, I am on Instagram is where I'm the most active. It's Josh Dela Cruz on Instagram. If you would like to hear some stuff outside of Blues Clues and more in the musical theater world, there are two albums that are out now that I'm on. I'm on the album, the studio cast recording of American Morning. It's a new musical written by Timothy Huang. It's on Spotify. I get to sing this incredible song on Discount Ghost Stories by Alexander Sage Oyen, which is also available on Spotify. That is a contemporary folk musical. And then I recently recorded a single over the summer with my wife, Amanda. Come Up for Air is available on Spotify. It's a song from the musical Ranked. By David Taylor Gomes and Kyle Holmes. Essentially, and 50% of all streaming proceeds from that song goes to Covenant House, which does amazing work for at-risk homeless youth. So check me out, check my wife and I out there. But at It's Josh Dela Cruz is the best way to find me.
There we go. Josh, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really enjoyed it. Anytime you want to come back and just hang out, I'd be happy. I'd be happy to, Yeah, you got an open invitation.
Thank you so much. This was seriously like the best time, the best interview. It was like there's nothing better than good conversation. So I thank you so much for that, Chris.
Oh, I appreciate it. But I'll let you go. Continue to stay safe and healthy, and and have a good rest of your day.
You as well. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.